Oh, Shalom Aleichem. Once again, we can learn again a certain part of the Sefer Mitzvas HaBitachon. The audio became a little bit not so good after a certain part of after about 7 or 8 minutes. So let's see if we can fix it up now and say it in a better way, in a more audible fashion. Okay, here we go. So here we go. 1 minute. So that was Tess Zion. 1 moment. Here we go. Tess Zion. Kesiv. It's written. Tehillim Kuf Tes Vav Tes Yud Aleph. It says in the Tehillim, the parsha, the parak 115, and it's the pesukim of Tes. That's 9 to Yud Aleph to 11. Yisrael b'tach b'Hashem. Yisrael have faith in Hashem. Ezram umaginam hu. He is their strength, and he is a protector to them, and like a shield. A magain is a shield. Hashem is like a Ozer means a helper, umaginam, and also like a protector to the Bnei Yisrael. Beis Aaron, bitchu b'Hashem. The house of Aaron should have faith in Hashem. Ezram umaginam hu. He is their a helper, and a magain is a shield to them, a protector. Yiri Hashem bitchu b'Hashem, Ezram umaginam hu. Yiri Hashem, those that fear Hashem, bitchu b'Hashem, should have faith in Hashem. Ezram umaginam hu. He is their helper. Ozer means to help, umaginam, and a protector. The magain is a shield for them. V'nitzavinu bazeh liftoach b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And we are commanded in this way to liftoach b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu, to have faith and hope in, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He. Sheyazrenu v'yoshienu, that He will help us and He will give us salvation. Tamid b'chol hitzarchusenu, in all of our needs, whatever we need, Hashem will help us and give us Yeshua, salvation, v'yogein aleinu, and He will be a protector upon us, mikol tzor v'oyev v'mikol davar ra, from any kind of enemy, v'oyev, and any kind of opposition, an oyev. He will help us against people that are trying to do us wrong, v'mikol davar ra, from every bad thing, Eved HaMelech. So we have to have faith in Hashem in all different things. Zivsa HaTorah, Yisrael liftoach b'Hashem. The Torah commanded Yisrael, the Bnei Yisrael, the Yidden, liftoach b'Hashem, to have faith in Hashem. Ulechohein v'uliyirei shamayim sheyivtchu b'Hashem. So the Torah commands to the Bnei Yisrael to have faith in Hashem, and also to the Kohen, the Kohanim, to the priests, and then also to the Yirei Shamayim, those that fear Hashem, sheyivtchu b'Hashem, that they should have faith in Hashem. V'lechaora yipalei ma'od, and so it's yipalei ma'od. It's a wonder. Lama peiret b'yichud Kohanim v'Yirei Hashem. Why did the Torah specify Kohanim and Yirei Hashem, those that fear Hashem? Peshita degam heim chayavim b'Mitzvas HaBitachon. It's very simple that they are also obligated in the mitzvah of having faith in Hashem. Why to say the Kohanim and the Yirei Hashem? Because Yechezkel Mem Daled says in Yechezkel Mem Daled, that's the 45th, the 42nd, the 44th Perik. V'chol nevela v'treifa min ha'of min ha'behema lo yochlu hakohanim. And any kind of nevela, that's the different treifa animals that were not slaughtered in the kosher way. V'chol nevela v'treifa. The treifa means it was toraf. It was ripped. In other words, it was killed by another, either an animal, or it was not slaughtered in the kosher way. Min ha'of, so min ha'of of the birds, or min ha'behema, or else of the kosher animals. Lo yochlu hakohanim. The kohanim should not eat. So it says that in Yechezkel. V'ikshu b'menachos, daf mem hey, and it's a kasha, it's a question in menachos, the menachos, the Talmud, the menachos, daf mem hey, the 45th daf. Kohanim hu delo yochlu ho Yisrael ochlei. The kohanim shouldn't eat. Why did it say the kohanim shouldn't eat? The Ho Yisrael ochlei, the Bnei Yisrael should eat, or do eat. They don't eat. They don't eat that either, the non-kosher items. V'tirtzu kohanim, it's tarich lo, v'tirtzu kohanim, v'tirtzu, the teretz, the answer to this is, kohanim, it's tarich lei. The kohanim, to say that they should have faith in Hashem, it's needed that the Kohanim should have faith. I would have thought, Hoel v'ishtari melika lagabayo tishtari nami nevela v'terefa. Hoel v'ishtari melika lagabayo tishtari nami nevela v'terefa. So since a different kind of slaughter is mutter for them to eat, malika, that means with their fingernails they had very long fingernails, and one of the ways of they were able to slaughter a bird with the fingernails. I'm not sure exactly how, but I'm very sure this is malika. So in other words, this is not, so this might be, so in other words, if they are able to eat that, they are able to eat malika, slaughtering with the fingernails. Usually it's a special knife that is used. So if they're able to eat a carbon, an oaf, a bird, that was shechted, that was slaughtered with malika, the way of malika, with their long fingernails. Lagabayo tishtari name nevela v'treifa kamash malon. So in other words, if they, the kohanim, are able to eat an oaf that was slaughtered with malika, in that way, with their fingernails, lagabayo. In other words, I think they squeeze the fingernails together, which that's the way of slaughtering it. So since they are able to eat an oaf that was slaughtered in that way with malika, tishtari nami nevela v'treifa, so I would think that maybe we can make mutter for them, and that it is mutter for them. It's possible for them to eat also nevela v'treifa. Nevela means nevela means it was that one found. I think that if one found a dead animal, v'treifa, or if it was different kinds of non-kosher, they were not slaughtered in the right way. It has to be slaughtered in the right way, the exact right way, in a very humane way. So that, and a kosher animal also. So I might think, if malika, a kohen, can eat an oaf, a bird that was slaughtered with malika, the method of the fingernails, like Abayu, Tishtari Nami Nevela, Vitrefa. So I would think the Kohanim can eat also a nevela and a trefa, other kinds of non-kosher animal, non-kosher slaughter. In other words, it has to be done the exact kosher method of slaughter. So, but we would think the Kohanim are able to eat the malika. In other words, it was slaughtered in that way. So maybe it's mutter, maybe it's permitted for them to eat an animal that was nevela. Let's say one finds that animal or betrefa, or else it was not slaughtered in the exact right way of. There is a very complicated way and humane way of slaughtering. So in other words, they were not slaughtered in the right way. So if we would think, since malika is okay for the Kohanim, so nevela and trefa are also okay for them. Kamash malan. So therefore, kamash malan. This lets us know. This says the whole nevela betrefa, any nevela betrefa min ha'of, of the birds, of min ha'behemo, from the behemos, a cow or a sheep. Lo yochlu ha'kohanim. The Kohanim cannot eat. This lets us know that. Hari lacha. So we have the im parat Kohanim b'miyuchad b'mitzvot tzarich ta'am lazeh. Hari lacha. So we have the im parat Kohanim b'miyuchad b'mitzvot tzarich ta'am lazeh. That if we specify the Kohanim specifically, in the mitzvah tzarich ta'am lazeh, we need a reason for it, because we gave a reason over there about that we might think, since the malika is okay for them, so also nevela and trefa would also be okay for them to eat. Chas v'shalom. So we see that we need a reason. Tzarich ta'am lazeh. V'chein matzinu, and it also says Menachos, and Menachos Daf Gimel in the Talmud, Menachos, Hakol Chayavin B'tzitzis, Kohanim Leviim V'Yisraelim. Everybody has to wear tzitzis. The tzitzis, the fringes on the four-cornered garments. It's the tzitzis. Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim. Kohanim, that's the Kohanim, Leviim, and Leviim V'Yisraelim, and Yisraelim, everybody. Kohanim Peshita, Kohanim, it's simple for sure. Why shouldn't they wear? It's Tzarech V'chulam, it's Tzarech Lei. So why do we say Kohanim? Of course Kohanim had to wear tzitzis. It's Tzarech Lei, it's needed. Salkatay T'chamina Hawil V'kasiv Lo Shulbosh Shatneis V'chulam. So Salkatay T'chamina, I might have thought it says Lo Shulbosh Shatneis. You shouldn't wear Shatneis. So I think it goes on to say that it says Lo Shulbosh Shatneis. One shouldn't wear Shatneis. I think that the possible answer is that they have a question. So let's say a Kohen has a pair of tzitzis, but it's made out of shatnez. Can he wear it? So the answer is that yes, because it's even if it's shatnez, that he can wear it. If it's because he has to wear a pair of tzitzis. So therefore it says. So in other words, one is thinking. In other words, at a certain point, the Kohen is able to wear shatnez. So you might. So therefore, this tells us that the Kohen. So one might think that okay, since he's able to wear shatnez, and the rest of the Bnei Yisrael are not able to wear shatnez, so maybe he would think, should he wear tzitzis or not too? So this tells us, yes, he has to wear tzitzis. He has to wear tzitzis. Hakol chayavim tzitzis. Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim. Everybody has to wear tzitzis. Kohanim, Levim, Yisraelim. In other words, the question might not be about tzitzis, but there might be a certain, let's say, a beged or something. So a Kohen can wear it if it's part of what the avoda that has to be done. Well, this has to be looked into. But anyway, we would. So this teaches us that yes, that the Kohanim need tzitzis too. V'nira b'siyata d'shmaya, and it seems b'siyata d'shmaya, with the help of Hashem, with the help of heaven, Lomar, the Peiret Yirei Hashem, Av Shehem, Yireim Ma'od, Es Hashem, Yisborach, that the Peiret Yirei Hashem, that they specify, Parat means it's specified, Yirei Hashem, the ones that fear to Hashem, Av Shehem, Yireim Ma'od, even though they're fear Hashem in an awe-inspiring way. They're very diligent in fearing Hashem. Yirei ma'od es Hashem yisborach. V'yodim es tokef hadin. They know the depth of the din. V'ha'onesh. They know the punishment. V'roim she'ein magia lahem klum. V'roim she'ein magia lahem klum. So they see that's nothing, that they should not have anything to do with an Aveira at all. So they see that this should not touch them at all. But they also have to have our mitzvah, they have the mitzvah of Bitachon and Hashem. They have to have, they also are commanded, they have the mitzvah of Leftoach to have faith b'Shem, sheyase itam chesed chinam mamash. That they have to also have faith in Hashem that He will do with them chesed chinam mamash. In other words, chesed, the loving kindness, even chinam, it's for nothing, even though they are very diligent in fearing Hashem. They have to also have the command. They are commanded that they have to have the faith that Hashem will help them, like chesed chinam, like loving kindness chinam, like it's for free. In other words, it's not that they are so diligent in doing everything and in fearing Hashem and everything. They are commanded to have bitachon, the faith that Hashem will do with them because He is good and He wants to help people, chesed chinam, loving kindness chinam, because Hashem wants us to have faith in Him that He will do the right thing. Not that, I do everything 100%, and so therefore Hashem has to help me. God forbid. No, we don't think that way. It's a mitzvah that even somebody that is so far away from chait, from doing an aveira, he is mitzvah. He mitzvah that he has the mitzvah of toach. B'Shem, he has to have faith in Hashem. Sheyase itam, that He will do with them chesed chinam mamash. In other words, chesed, loving kindness chinam, which is like it's for free. In other words, it's not that Hashem owes it to that person, God forbid. This is chesed chinam, loving kindness for free. The kesiv, in other words, no matter what, he has to also have faith that Hashem will do the chesed chinam. Okay, it says Tehillim Kuf Mem Zayin. It says Tehillim in 147 Yud Aleph, the 11th pasuk. Rotze Hashem es Yereyev, Rotze Hashem es Yereyev es Hamayachalim lechasto. Hashem wants Yureyev, those that fear him. It's a mayach aleim lechasto, those that are very assiduous, they're looking after Hashem, lechasto, for Hashem's chesed. In other words, they're not saying that they didn't do anything wrong, so that Hashem should help. No, this is miyachlam lechasto. They were waiting for his chesed, for Hashem's chesed, for his loving kindness. In other words, this is something, the chesed of Hashem. This is something that Hashem is giving for free. Perish, the explanation is, Kishahu Yorei Ma'od, that's a shame. When one is very fearful of Hashem Yisbarach, Hashem, he should be blessed. V'yorei shelo yigrom hachet, and he's worried that the chait, the sin shouldn't come. He shouldn't be come to him. He shouldn't do anything that will cause him to sin. And he knows that he's so clean. He's clean as a whistle. That nothing will come to him at all. Meyachel, still he has to have hope. Even a person like that is so, as it were, away from sin, he has to hope. He has to hope in the Havtacha, the Bitachon, the faith that Hashem will give him chesed berov chasdo, that will give him chesed berov chasdo, and the abundance of his loving kindness, chesed chinam, chesed, loving kindness chinam, which is not deserved. It's not deserved. In other words, this is Hashem will give it to him because Hashem wants to give it to him. It's a chesed chinam, even though he did not do an avera, had nothing to do with an avera, but still, everything, whatever Hashem does for us is chesed chinam, and we have to have faith in that, the chesed chinam, the chesed which is chinam, like for free. In other words, it's not that we do not deserve it even, but still Hashem wants to give us, so we have to have faith in His chesed chinam, in Hashem's chesed chinam for nothing that's not deserved. In other words, Hashem, the goodness of Hashem that He wants to give it. V'yayin la'el, Osh Yud Aleph Yud Beis, Uperet Kohanim, Mishum Dechsiv, Uperet Kohanim, and we specify in the Tehillim, it specifies Kohanim, Mishum Dechsiv, because it says, Bamidbar Yud Ches Chav, it says in Bamidbar Yud Ches, the 18th Perek, Chav, that's the Chav is the 20th pasuk. Vayomer Hashem el Haron, and Hashem said to Aaron, "Be artzom lo sincho, in their land, and with the Yidden, in the land of Eretz Yisrael, lo sincho, you should not have an inheritance. Be artzom, in their land, lo sincho, you should not have an inheritance. V'chelek lo yihiyeh lecho b'socham, and you should not have any part of their land b'socham among them." In other words, this is saying this to Aharon, for his descendants and for them. V'chelek lo yihiyeh lecho b'socham, you should not have a chelek among them. Ani chelkecha v'nachalosecha v'soch b'nei Yisrael. Ani, Hashem is saying He, chelkecha is their chelek, is their portion. V'nachalosecha is their inheritance. V'soch b'nei Yisrael, in the midst of the b'nei Yisrael. Uparnasasam hu al yidei matnos kehuna. Their panasa. So how did they make a living? Their panasa, their ways of making a living, who al yidei matnos kehuna, was through the different matanos, the different gifts that the Bnei Yisrael gave to the Kahuna. In other words, different parts of the karbanos were given to the of the karbanos were given to the Kohanim, and different meiser and the tithes were given to the Kohanim. Different things, different meiser, that's the 10th, were given to the Beis HaMikdash, and the Beis HaMikdash were the Kohanim. The Kohanim worked in the Beis HaMikdash, so they had a share of some of that, of some of the Meiser. Some of it went straight to Hashem. But the Kohanim, in other words, this is how they made a living. Lekach, therefore, Tziva B'yichud, it says, Beis Aaron Bitchu B'Hashem. Beis Aaron, the house of Aaron, Bitchu B'Hashem, should have faith in Hashem. V'lo sihiyu kichohanim ha'mesayim b'beis ha'geronos. V'lo sihiyu kichohanim, you shouldn't be like the Kohanim, ha'mesayim b'beis ha'geronos. Ha'mesayim, that help out in the threshing floor. Ha'mesayim b'beis ha'geronos. In other words, they have to rely on that the Bnei Yisrael will give it to them, and this is how they made a living. And that's part of the way of that we also this was how also they had faith in Hashem. It's like a learning tool, and that's how a mashal of how the Kohanim had faith in Hashem. It says, Ani chelkecha. Ani, Hashem said, He is chelkecha. I am your chelek, your portion. V'nachalasecha, your nachalas, your inheritance, b'soch b'nei Yisrael, in the midst of the b'nei Yisrael. Parnasatam hu al yidei matanos geuna. Their parnasa was through the matnos geuna. Matnos geuna means that the Kohanim got certain gifts, certain that the Bnei Yisrael gave to them, and that's how they made a living. That's how they survived. That's how they made a living. L'kach tziva b'yichud. Therefore, it says, Beis Aaron Bitchu B'Hashem. The house of Aaron Bitchu B'Hashem should have faith in Hashem. V'lo siyu Kohanim. They shouldn't be like the Kohanim Hamesayim that help out the Beis HaGeronos, in the house of the I think that's the threshing floor. V'hinei gam Leviim lo hayil lahem chelek v'nachala. And also the Leviim, also they did not have a chelek, a portion v'nachala, or an inheritance in the land of the Bnei Yisrael. They didn't have that. Kesiv Shom Yudches Chav Daled, it says Yudches, that's the 18th parak Chav Daled, the fourth pasuk. And so when it says Shom, that means the last. That's Bamidbar, in Bamidbar. Ki es Maaser Bnei Yisrael Asher Yerimu Lashem Terumo Nosati LaLeviim Lenachalo. Ki es Maaser Bnei Yisrael. The Maaser, the Bnei Yisrael, the tenth, the tithe of the Bnei Yisrael, Asher Yorimu Lashem, that they are setting aside for Hashem. Terumo Nosati LaLeviim Lenachalo. This is a something that they are set aside. Nosati, I, meaning Hashem is saying this. Hashem Nosati, Hashem gave Leviim, to the Leviim, Lenachala, for an inheritance. Ki es Maaser Bnei Yisrael, the tenth, the tithe, the tenth, Bnei Yisrael, of the Bnei Yisrael Asher Yerimu Hashem, that they give, set aside for Hashem, to Rumona Sati LaLeviim. Truma Hashem gave to the Leviim Lenachala, for an inheritance. Al Kein Omarti Lahem B'soch Bnei Yisrael Lo yinchalu nachala. Therefore, Amarti Lohem, I said to them, Hashem said to them, V'soch b'nei Yisrael, lo yinchalu nachala. In the midst of the Bnei Yisrael, they should not have a nachala, an inheritance. They shouldn't have land, because they also get various parts that various different things that are like the tithe of the crops. The Bnei Yisrael has to give to the Leviim to Mitzorech lehavin lama lo tziva b'perish gam beis halevi, and we have to understand why lo tziva b'perish gam beis halevi. Why didn't it say specifically also beis halevi b'tchul b'Hashem should have faith in Hashem? K'derech she'amar Tehillim kuf lamed hey, you test like it says in Tehillim kuf lamed hey, it's Tehillim, the 135th parak, Yud Test. That's the look at the Yud Test, the 19th pasuk. Beis Aaron Baruch Hu Es Hashem, Beis Halevi Baruch Hu Es Hashem. So it says. It says over there. It says the Kohanim, and it says the Leviim. Beis Aaron Baruch Hu Es Hashem, Beis Halevi Baruch Hu Es Hashem. So it says over there, the Beis Aaron, the Kohanim, the house of Aaron, Baruch Hu Es Hashem, should bless Hashem. Beis Halevi Baruch Hu Es Hashem. The house of Levi should fear Hashem. Should bless Hashem. V'yesh nomar, and so we should say, the betzivoy yirei Hashem bitchu Hashem b'Hashem, yirei Hashem bitchu b'Hashem. Those that fear Hashem should bitchu b'Hashem should have bitachon, should have bitachon in Hashem, faith in Hashem. Nirmaz gam leviim. Nirmaz gam leviim. So the Leviim are also hinted to when it says Yirei Hashem bitchu b'Hashem. So when it says Yirei Hashem, those that fear Hashem should have bitachon, should have faith in Hashem. Nirmaz gam leviim. So the Leviim are hinted to over here. Shehayu mitzuyonim beyoter beyiras shemayim, because the Leviim were they excelled very much. They excelled in yiras shemayim, in the fear of heaven, in the fear of Hashem. Like it says, Shemos Lamed Beis Chavav, Shemos Lamed Beis. It's the 32nd parak in Chavav, the 26th pasuk. Vayamod Moshe b'shar hamachana. Vayamod Moshe b'shar hamachana. Moshe stood b'shar hamachana in the gate of the machana. Vayomer mi la'Hashem Eloi. And he said, who is for Hashem? Eloi should come to me. Vayamod Moshe b'shar hamachana. And Moshe stood b'shar hamachana in the tent. No, excuse me, not in the tent. Bishar means the gate. Vayamod Moshe b'shar hamachana, and Moshe stood in the shar, in the gate, hamachana of the camp. Vayomer, and he said, Mi la'Hashem Eloi, who is for Hashem? Come to me. Come to Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayeyashu Elov. Kol b'nei Levi, and so the whole b'nei Levi, the whole sons of Levi came to Moshe when he said, who is for Hashem? Mi la'Hashem Eloi, come to me. So they were very mitziyonim, they excelled in yiras Hashem. So when it says Yirei Hashem bitchu b'Hashem, so when it says Yirei Hashem bitchu b'Hashem, when it says those that fear Hashem should have faith in Hashem, nirmaz gam leviim. So the Leviim also Shohayu Mitziyonim B'Yota B'Yeres HaShamayim. They were they excelled in Yeres Shamayim. Ukedichsiv Shmos Lamed Beis Chavav Vayamod Moshe B'Shar HaMachna, and Moshe stood B'Shar HaMachna by the gates of the camp, V'Yomer, and he said, Mi la Hashem Eloi, who is for Hashem Eloi, should come to me. Vayeyosvu Elov. Kol B'nai Levi, all of the B'nai Levi came to him, they gathered to him. V'chein Perish Rashi said, Tehillim Kuf Yudches